story, ClassDojo. Is it a classroom tool used for motivation or manipulation? We are joined by Mike from ClassDojo, who will provide a brief overview.
Simply put, ClassDojo is an online platform used by educators to track student behavior and communicate with families effortlessly.
But according to this research report, some principals and some students view ClassDojo quite differently. Let's hear from some of the research participants now.
ClassDojo definitely helped me keep track of grades with my family, but it essentially gave them the ability to breathe down my neck.
Thank you for your honest feedback. Now let's hear from the principals. Principal Skinner, how would you describe the overall feeling students have towards ClassDojo?
I would have to say, not all students are motivated by points.
Interesting. Thank you, Principal Skinner. Would you like to add anything, Principal Cooper?
Yes, thank you, Catherine. The kids love getting points and working towards something.
Thank you, Principal Cooper. Would you be able to shed some insight into the key findings of the study in relation to parental perspectives on ClassDojo?
Yes, certainly. When principals were asked how they would describe the overall feelings parents had toward ClassDojo, 53% of principals reported very positive. But some parents are offline, so the app is less useful.
From this research, it seems that most principals believe that ClassDojo is an effective tool for parent communication. However, some students saw it more as a tool for surveillance. Interestingly, ClassDojo has received global notoriety, and they are used in 95% of US classrooms, so they must be doing something right. Let's now look at the intended benefits of ClassDojo and see if the research supports the hype. Our first researcher we'll be interviewing is Ben Williamson. Your article provides some great insight into the benefits of ClassDojo. However, your article also suggests that ClassDojo is a tool for psychological surveillance. Would you care to elaborate?
Absolutely. ClassDojo was created by Sam Chaudhry and Liam Don in 2011 as a classroom management tool. It's a gamified way to promote behaviors like persistence, teamwork, and helping others. In 2016, ClassDojo further developed its platform to include social-emotional learning, drawing on Carol Dweck's theory of growth mindset. This all sounds great, an app for teachers that supports classroom management by developing student resilience, promoting positive character traits, and making it easier for parents and teachers to communicate. However, my research suggests that ClassDojo is more complex than that. If we begin to look at the vast amounts of psychological data it collects on students daily, it can also be seen as psychological surveillance. ClassDojo does have the ability to motivate students, but it also has the ability to manipulate.
Thank you, Ben. Definitely some food for thought. We are also joined by your colleague, Deborah Lupton. Deborah, I would love to hear your thoughts on ClassDojo.
ClassDojo effectively collates data on student behavior and supports communication between schools and families.
Your research also highlights some concerns. Would you care to elaborate?
ClassDojo is becoming a part of a growing system of data valence, and unfortunately, there is a lack of consideration to the rights of students regarding their data and their long-term digital footprint.
Now that's definitely troubling. Perhaps Jamie Manole, academic researcher, can shed some insight into the benefits of ClassDojo.
Thank you, Catherine, certainly. ClassDojo is a fantastic app which helps teachers manage classrooms and set clear behavioral expectations.
Did you also find that ClassDojo had the potential to manipulate?
Unfortunately, yes, we did. If I may quote my own paper, ClassDojo exists as a digital architecture of control through which power is concentrated in teachers' practices that not only reduce discipline to a machinery of compliance and obedience, but exacerbate existing disadvantages and inequalities in education. Simply put, ClassDojo may lead to an increased punitive practices. Teachers may rely on data tracking rather than relational discipline, shifting the focus from a student learning and understanding the consequences of their behavior to blind compliance.
That's certainly a lot to consider. So from this research, there seems to be some serious ethical concerns raised. That's why I've invited a representative from ClassDojo to join us tonight. Thank you, Suzanne.
Thank you, Catherine. ClassDojo takes data privacy very seriously. We are FERPA and COPPA compliant.
Sorry to interrupt you, Suzanne. Just for our viewers, what is FERPA and COPPA?
FERPA stands for Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act. It's a U.S. federal law that protects the privacy of student educational records. ClassDojo is compliant with this act as it keeps the student records private and gives the school control of who can access the data. And COPPA stands for Child Online Privacy Protection Act, and it's a U.S. law that protects children under 14 on websites and online platforms. ClassDojo is compliant with this law as it does not show ads to children, and parent permission is required before a student account can be created. As you can see, ClassDojo takes data privacy seriously. We have policies in place for data access, and student data is not sold. For full transparency, it must be noted that all responsibility for data sharing and consent ultimately falls on the school and the classroom teachers.
Thank you, Suzanne. Whilst I don't disagree that ClassDojo takes data privacy seriously, we do have some researchers that say these measures don't go far enough.
Thank you, Catherine. A main concern Emma and myself saw with ClassDojo was the notion that ClassDojo is a free app, but no one talks about the hidden cost. ClassDojo works with 22 third-party service providers, including Facebook and Google, that raises major concerns about data sharing for me.
Exactly. And furthermore, we are concerned that student data is being harvested for commercial gain without student consent. But the real harm is, if I may quote my own work, another pedagogical effect of educational surveillance may be that children grow up to be adults who do not value their own privacy or that of others.
Emma and myself do acknowledge that ClassDojo can enhance learning and support safeguarding. But our main concern is that platforms like ClassDojo normalizes surveillance capitalism in education.
Ladies, what do you think the solution is then?
Education is the key. We need a robust digital literacy curriculum that encourages students to question who is benefiting from their data.
Thank you, Caroline and Emma. You've raised an interesting point. Through the normalization of data surveillance, are we devaluing data privacy? I do wonder how students view these platforms. Fortunately, we are joined by Spencer Greenhallow, Daniela Gamacchio, and Sarah Burridge, authors of Platforms, Perceptions and Privacy, who set out to answer this very question.
Thank you for having us, Catherine. In our research, we found that students don't differentiate complex educational tools like ClassDojo from basic edtech tools, rather viewing them all as simple tools. But it is important to note that some complex educational tools, such as ClassDojo, have the ability to influence behavior and collect personal data.
Furthermore, since students view these apps as simple tools, they do not consider their data privacy. For example, in our survey of 528 undergraduates, only 2% indicated any critical awareness of data privacy.
In our paper, we describe this as a tool perspective. Students focus on the function of the tool without consideration for data ownership and commercial intent.
What do you think needs to change?
Education. Students need to be taught about surveillance capitalism, ethics, and data commodification. Digital literacy needs to equip students to critically evaluate a platform to determine who is the beneficiary and who has ownership of the data.
Thank you, Spencer, Daniela, and Sarah. It seems to me these platforms have the ability to put students in vulnerable situations where their data could be extracted and exploited due to the lack of critical awareness among students, which leads me to my next question. What is the role of teachers in the digital age when digital surveillance is normalized and data is currency? To answer this question, I have brought back Ben Williamson. Welcome back, Ben.
Thanks for having me back, Catherine. Teachers need to equip students with critical digital literacy skills, not just how to use technology, but how to question it. It should include skills such as understanding who benefits from the platform and who owns and profits from their data.
Thank you, Ben. From tonight's story, we can now see that ClassDojo is more than just a classroom app. It requires a much deeper conversation about privacy and pedagogy in the digital age. ClassDojo has the ability to motivate students and improve communication between schools and families and support behaviour management. but it also raises more questions about surveillance, consent, and manipulation. What we normalise in our classrooms today shapes the values our students hold in the future. If we devalue data privacy, are we quietly teaching them autonomy is the price we pay for convenience? So the question remains, ClassDojo, motivation or manipulation? That's all for tonight. I'm Catherine Hart, and thank you for watching.